This first technique that I'm going to teach you is a cheat code. Nobody's talking about it. Welcome back to the MPC show. Today we have 3 techniques to use with song mode and sequence record on the MPC Sample. The first technique I'm going to teach you is automation on sequence record mode. How do you do it? Well, and watch the filter on the guitar. Now, automation is one of my favorite workflows, and this first technique that I'm about to teach you, no one is talking about. Let's get into it. Today we got the MPC Sample, and did you know the MPC Sample is capable of automation? What? Automation on the MPC Sample? How? I'll show you how. So if you watched my last video, you know that I have been using the MPC Sample as a songwriter, and as a songwriter, I must say, it's a dangerous weapon. Automation. Automation on the MPC Sample? What? Yes, you can automate choices through your parameters on the MPC Sample using sequence record. So when you're in sequence record, if you press, I'm giving you an example now, right? So on, is it this sequence here? Yeah, listen to the guitar. And watch the filter on the guitar. Now, automation is one of my favorite workflows and ways to add dynamics to my MPC productions. It's always been that. Now that I know that I can do this on the MPC Sample, I think it really changes a lot. Now, it would be nice if we could automate effects directly on the sequence as well through sequence record, but right now, you can only automate whatever you see on the screen. And this includes all of your, if you hold shift and if you press the fader, any of these effects on the fader can be automated with sequence record. That means you can automate your pad volume. That means you can automate your pad pan, okay? Back and forth, left and right, however you want, however you see fit, using the fader on sequence record, right? Pad tune, pad pump, attack, pardon me, pad amp attack, pad amp decay, your pad filter cutoff. And that's exactly what I was doing right there. I was automating my filter. I actually used this screen to automate the cutoff with the K1 knob here. And as the song played with sequence record on, I triggered it. Now you can also automate 2 programmed performance, whatever you want to call it, you know, I just call it automation. But they're not calling it automation because there's nowhere on the screen or on the hardware do we even see the word automation. This is very similar to the read-write automation that I've taught you many a time on the MPC X. By the way, if you're interested, make sure you subscribe at this time because I'm teaching everything Akai Professional MPC hardware. Then we're going to move into photography. Then we're going to move into photography and filmmaking. Maybe not so soon if you can't say it. So, yes, run that automation on sequence record. Get creative with that because literally there's no limit here. It really is. So how do you do it though? Well, it's automation in sequence record. You feel me? I repeat. It's automation in sequence record. Now I'll give you an example, right? If we hit sequence record, well first if I go to my fader, let's do a pan. We'll do a pan. And if I hit sequence record now, Let's pan it. And pressing sequence record again to end the recording of the programming, effect, automation, whatever you want to call it. I call it automation on sequence record. That technique nobody's talking about. I haven't seen anybody talk about that. And when it comes to songwriting and music production, that can really take your music from, you know, 25 miles per hour to 60, especially with the tuning. The tuning on the hats, I've been doing that all the time, automating my tuning, automate the tuning of the hat so it goes, like when you're doing that, it's making the shit dance, and now the song has much more rhythm and percussion and velocity and dynamic. Just trust me on that. Use that technique. The ability to take this anywhere I want and to constantly have, you know, a song at my fingertips that I might have been thinking about or that I might be dreaming upon. It's special. You have to understand, when you're in sequence record, it's kind of like read and write on the MPC X, low key, because you are writing in the automation. Now, this is a great way to put filters on your performances, for guitar specifically. Welcome back to the MPC show with your host, that dude. The next technique, ladies and gentlemen, and do not forget it, recalling the sample. Are you resampling what you recall? Or are you just recalling what the MPC hears with the knob effects or the effects embedded directly on top of the pad? This second technique you need to learn like the back of your hand, because this is how you're going to take this MPC from this, sampling something like this. Because it's all about flavor, right? There's no Flavor Pro on the MPC Sample. There's no Fly Tape 2 on the MPC Sample. You gotta get a bit more intuitive when it comes to laying down effects on top of your samples. The second technique that I'm going to teach you, and is so important when it comes to songwriting on the MPC Sample, is recall. Recall with effects on top of your pads, on top of your samples, on top of your performances. How do you do it? So let's take a sample here from my Les Paul. Now let's say I wanted that, but I wanted it with an effect on top of it. If we hold Shift and if we press this button here, FX Select, let's take a closer look. Let me zoom in a bit. Now that we're zoomed in a little bit on the screen here, you can see the waveform on this pad, right? You can also see if I hold the Shift button here and if I press Effect Select, which is right underneath the knob effects, I can take an effect. Now, what effect do we want to use? How about we put a flanger on this guitar? And before we do that, let's trigger all pads just to make sure this effect is going across all pads, because we want to make sure that maybe there was another pad selected in a different pad bank that is soloed out with this effect. So if we go all pads first and then we select the sample on the pad that we actually want to use, that's a troubleshooting way of just making sure that you're only going to get that sound on the sample. right? Regardless, you could have done this workflow I'm about to teach you with all pads anyways, because we're only going to trigger that one sample and then we're going to recall it. So if we trigger that sample, right, back in sample mode here, we trigger the sample, now it has that effect on it. And of course, we can adjust the effects by coming back in here. That's cool. So that's what it sounds like with it. That's what it sounds like without it. Bypass on, bypass off. So clearly it's a little more groovy with the flanger on it. Now maybe I want that, but I want it to save and I want to make sure that it's on my track. So what do? Let's play it by itself. Just let it play. That's enough for me. Now if I hold the shift button, after I hold the shift button, if I press this first recall button under sample record, that sample was recalled into pad 12. If I press pad 12, I get the sample with the pad effect or the knob effect on top. Are you with me? So if I go back now and let's say we bypass it, and once again we play that sample, that's the clean one, nothing's on it there, and then here is the flanger. Of course you would have to time that right to your liking, but you get it, right? That's one of the most important techniques when it comes to songwriting on the MPC sample. No, those effects cannot be adjusted once they are printed through a recall. However, as the sirens ring out, that's how you ring the alarm. That's how you bring some emotion. That's how you bring some dynamic. That's how you bring some passion into your songs and to your samples. That's how you spice them up and you make sure they're saved. Because if I were to just go on here and to just put that effect select on all pads while I'm doing a playback performance, great for the performance, but what if you want to print it? This is the only way to do it, and that's how I've been flipping all of my guitar, which has been sampled by the output of the MPC, which leads me to my next technique. The MPC X being used as my output into the MPC sample. What do I mean by that? Let's break that down. These are the 3 techniques that you really need to master when it comes to creating songs on the MPC samples. The 3rd technique that I'm going to teach you today is using your alternative MPC X or your MPC Live, whatever you got, as the output. What do I mean? You take your alternative MPC, or Lord forbid you got a machine hooked up to this thing. Oh my! You take your MPC output and you have that hooked up on output 3.4 and you send it out into the MPC sample. Mind you, in my room, in my lab, I have the MPC sample going audio out into the MPC X. Now I have my MPC X output 3.4 going into the MPC sample, which creates this incredible world of sound in which I can hear anything, sample anything, flip anything, trigger anything. Yeah, I might not be able to do that somewhere else outside of this room unless I had an MPC Live, right? I had an MPC Live with some battery on it. Well, you can get pretty nasty. Just think about that. Think about these techniques, ladies and gentlemen. Think about ways that you can use these to complete songs. You can actually use the MPC sample as songs. Mind you, that song that I did the other day, I maxed out. I maxed out the internal RAM. I maxed it out. It got to the point to where I couldn't do any more resamples, which leads me to thinking you need to figure out how to be a minimalist when it comes to songwriting. Because at the end of the day, what did the Beatles have? They didn't have much. They really didn't. They just had a couple guitars and amplifiers, and that was it. You know, it was the four of them. That's all you guys had. And now look at us. We're trying to do everything with all that we got. Use what you have, ladies and gentlemen. Use what you have and get good at what you have. Master what you have so you can take this to the next level. It's my daughter there. Look. I don't even know what that was called. Hopefully that was safe. You can max out using the MPC X as your output. So I have my MPC X right here, and for my output on my MPC X, if I look behind here, I believe on output 3 and 4, I have going out of the MPC X directly into the back of the MPC sample. Okay? The MPC sample is receiving the MPC X output. If I go into my input configuration by holding Shift and pressing this button here, I can change my source to the rear. Pause. The rear is where you're getting music. Pause. From the MPC X. That's where it's coming from. Okay? And then from there, I can have a monitor on if I want. But essentially, I took that and I had my MPC X input guitar not actually even plugged into the MPC X. What I've been doing lately with my guitar is using the MPC X input microphone, Shure SM7B. Been using this bad boy, okay, not for this video demonstration, but on the Fender amplifier, which I found in a trash can, and that's how I got that crunch out of this guitar. Now, of course, that's the guitar with knob effects, but if I go into my pad bank here and if I play, that's the guitar straight up right there. That's the source straight up right there. Looking at that, pretty crunchy, and in retrospect, I actually wish that I would have recorded that maybe a little bit less gain on that, on the microphone going into the MPC sample. I think it was a little hot and a little crunchy, but I think I made it work. You let me know, did I make it work? Check out the video before this video, which is the last video that I posted, and you can hear the song in its entirety, which I'm going to continue to writing music. I'm going to continue my songwriting journey on the MPC sample because it does make me uber creative. Honestly, it makes me super duper creative. And if there's something that works and that's inspiring you to be more creative, I think you should go with that, you know? So these are the 3 techniques that I use to finish that song. Like I said, if you want to check out that song, make sure you hit this. I always think, is it on this side or is it on this side? I think it's on this side. No, but I think it's on this side actually. Make sure you watch this video. I think it's on this side. Right there. Watch that. And sub for more. Let me know in the comments if this helped you. And cut. the first technique that I want you to understand with the MPC sample is use all these techniques. Did any of these techniques help you? Honestly, did any of these techniques that I taught you help you, or have you already done all of this? By the way, resampling, like I showed you earlier, you can also recall. And we're going to do a whole video and a whole lesson on resample versus recall in the future. So if any of this is helpful to you, let me know in the comments right now. Go get creative right now. Go get creative right now. We don't know if tomorrow is promised, ladies and gentlemen. So make as much music as possible, regardless of, you know, how much time you got. Make that music. Make that music. And shout outs to the homie who just put this book out. By the way, Noise or Nourishment. Check it out on Amazon. This is a great book to motivate you and get you really closer to that journey of mastery, chasing this thing we call life, chasing this thing we call art. Get on it. Thank you so much for all the love and all the support. Until next time, I will see you soon. You dig? Don't sleep on musicianship either when it comes to the MPC sample. You know, that's the real technique that you got to learn. Learn that. Learn that.